What's going on, everybody? This is Joe Harper with this week's midweek video. So this past week on Wednesday, I uploaded the first of what are going to be called now the midweek video. So this is a new thing I'm going to do where I'm going to try to take a concept and I'm going to talk about it in a very short amount of time. I'm doing my Trump hands here. It's phenomenal. It's my voice. Those are bad people over there. They're bad hombres. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Some of my friends, even though they're probably a little biased, they say I do a pretty good Trump impersonation. I gotta tell ya, we're gonna build a great big beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it, and it's gonna be phenomenal. All you gotta do to do a good Trump impersonation, guys, is you just gotta get the hand gestures down and you gotta get the cadence down. It's phenomenal. And if you do that, you got Trump down to a T. But this week's video isn't to talk about Trump. But the purposes of the midweek video is going to be to take a topic and talk about it in about 5 to 10 minutes. So the goal is that it's going to be a short video and it's going to be something that it's going to just be not as long, not the long 45 to hour long videos. A lot of times I upload on the weekend. There's usually one large video I upload every week, which is usually a huge dump of information. But the reason why I want to do this is to do the shorter video is because then I can cover topics that are a little different than the main big teaching topics or the big travel videos I do. I'm going to do a lot of like book recommendations, documentary informations, because I love books. You guys have probably realized about this, so I'm going to do a lot about books. I might do, this isn't a news channel, but I might do short little updates on current events if it's relevant to the main flow of this channel. So if it's something in the reformed world, in the church, or something to do with globalism or the New World Order, or it's something to do with giants or the alien phenomenon or cryptids, I could cover those type of current events in a short spat. Or some weeks I think I may just do me talking or ranting about a topic in a 5-minute format. And the goal is for it to have a different feel to it than the main videos. The goal of it is to be able to have a little bit of extra time to talk about things that don't necessarily have enough time to get covered in the main videos, but to do it in a format that's very, very succinct. The goal is to keep the videos shorter than 10 minutes and for me to be talking a little bit closer to 5 minutes. So kind of how like Skywatch TV, Derek Gilbert does 5 and 10, 5 news events, 10 minutes. The idea is a concise, snappy format. So that's really the goal of this video. So last week I talked about Bigfoot resources. I told everybody to comment in the video below about share with me their Bigfoot and their cryptid story. So feel free to do that still, even on this video. But in this week's video, I'm going to be talking about recommending this book, which is called The Sovereignty of God by Arthur W. Pink. I love this book. This is a book that's a really good book. On this channel, we've always tried to talk about there's exposing the darkness on this channel, but also talking about the light. We never want to lose sight of both of them. So sometimes, some weeks we do Bible studies, some weeks we do videos where we go to New Mexico and talk about aliens, unquote. I don't believe they're extraterrestrials. I think it's a demonic element, but we do both on this channel. So this is a really cool one. Well, last week we were recommending Bigfoot books, but this week we're talking about a really good, solid theological book. Now, Arthur W. Pink, he lived in the 20th century. And he was a Baptist, I guess he was a Calvinist, a 5-point Calvinist, a Reformed Calvinist, or a Reformed Baptist. And he was a very good writer, a very good theologian. Now, he had his quirks. In the latter part of his life, he lived kind of a reclusive existence. He was very, very strong on his views of separation from what he saw as from false churches. And some conservative Christians think he should be commended for that. Other Christians think that he was a hyper separatist. So, but my point is, he had his quirks, but he was a very godly man. If you read his books, and another great book of his, I don't have it in front of me, The Attributes of God. That's an excellent book. His writings are deep and rich and good. And many other theologians, like his contemporary Martin Lloyd-Jones, praised Arthur W. Pink. There's been a huge explosion of Calvinism in the professing church in the 21st century. There's a lot more Calvinist churches on the block than there used to be. So Arthur W. Pink is a guy who's really been praised. Now, what I love about this book is that it gives such a good introduction to this massive topic called the sovereignty of God. And it's such a cool topic. I love the doctrines of grace. I love the 5 points of Calvinism. I love the idea of predestination. And my testimony is when I first came to this concept, this biblical doctrine back in 2015, when because I used to really have worries like, can you screw up God's plan for your life? And I used to really think about this. And I remember once I heard a pastor of the church I was at, and he was very well intentioned in his sermon. He said, well, God's got a great plan for you, but sometimes we screw up, and but don't worry, because God's got a plan B for your life, or a plan C for your life, or a plan D for your life. And he meant that as encouragement. And I love that what his heart was in what he was trying to say. Like, don't worry, God's got a contingency plan for when we screw up. He was in the context of kind of the more Arminian side of the spectrum. And I remember I was so discouraged by that concept because I'm like, I don't want plan B for my life. I want a good plan for my life. And I want a God that can give me that plan, even in the midst of me screwing up and sinning, even though I don't want to sin and screw up. And when I came to this concept that everything in life is predestined by God, I was like, whoa, that's a really powerful, cool concept. Now, as a Calvinist, I am not so strong in my Calvinism. Like, there's some Calvinists who are what I call cranky Calvinists, and I know that sounds funny, but I get kind of irritated with my Calvinist brethren because they can be kind of harsh and cold sometimes. Even Spurgeon in his day kind of lamented the cold, lifeless Calvinism that's kind of mean and harsh. And sometimes Christians of other persuasions don't like the Calvinists all that much. But I just want to say this at this point: if you're somebody who's an Arminian, or you're of a different persuasion in the Reformed faith, I would just encourage you. I think there's a lot of great people who don't see everything the way I do theologically, as long as people don't believe in blatant heresies like denying the deity of Christ. I think there's a lot of room for good fellowship with people who see some of these matters a little bit differently. There are some Calvinists who would say if you don't hold to the sovereignty of God, you cannot be saved. And I really don't see things that way. I have actually even recently been reading a lot of Tozer, who was somewhere in between Calvinism and Arminianism, and I've greatly profited from his writing. So even for me, God's taught me a lot about graciousness. So if you struggle with this concept, like, I just encourage you to just think about it. But yeah, great Christians all around. But this is a great book, though. Just to wrap up, we're at about 7 minutes. We're going to keep this under 10 minutes. I'm going to keep my promise. But this book is, if you've never read it, it's just a great introduction to this idea of a God who's sovereign over everything that happens. He predestines everything that happened. Even before the world began, God predestined everything that's going to happen in history, including the salvation of who will be saved, who will be not. I know some people really struggle with that concept. I get it. But this is a book that's going to give you a big God. And I love that about this book. And what I will say, why I love the doctrine of predestination is because of the fact that it is something that puts a rock under my feet. It's something that gives me a peace that passes all understanding. I know no matter what's going on, God's predestined everything, so I don't need to worry. That, for me, when I first came to that concept, when I used to really worry, can I screw up God's plan for my life? And I came to a point, it's like, man, everything that's happened in my life up to this point, even all my mistakes, has been predestined by God. And everything that's going to happen in my life, the good and the bad, has been predestined by God. And I'm right in the center where God wants me. That was such a great encouragement. And that's why predestination is so cool. And that's why I'd really love to recommend this book, because it's really a cool concept. So that's all. That's really what I got for this week, guys. This is going to be this concept of the sovereignty of God by Arthur W. Pink. Let me know what you think about Calvinism in the comments. Keep the comments gracious, please. But let me know, do you agree, disagree? Let me know. That being said, this is Joe Harper with Reformed Truth Ministries. God bless everybody. If you enjoyed this video, then check out our website at www.reformedtruther.com.